Hello, this is Tuesday, and it is February 16th. I have a very special guest today, David Lee Strasberg. Yay! So I asked David to come on 365Rach. I wanted to ask him a question, and the question is, has sense memory changed in 2016?
I think sense memory in itself, and sense memory, for those who maybe don't know, is using the imaginary stimulation of your five senses, right? It's the way that an actor believes. That's the way my father trained actors, was to believe using their body, to believe using the five senses. What can you taste? What can you smell? What can you hear? What can you see? What can you... I missed one. I think maybe touch with your skin, feels kinesthetically. I think while the human being, the senses are unchanged, the way we use it has shifted a bit. I think as you get to a more technological era, I think the demand for stimulation is going way up. So what I see, for example, in the classroom, in the studio, is I see people with less sensitivity sort of on their skin, so to speak, right? Their shell is a little bit harder. But once you open that up a little bit, then I think the sensitivity is pretty significant under the surface. People are really craving sense memory. They're craving some stimulation of truth that they don't get in their day.
And how has concentration changed with technology, with people being on their phones all the time? I know for me, I really have to put the phone away to completely concentrate on something.
Yeah, and the phone is dangerous in a different way too. There's actually some science behind it now where they can see the digital stimulation of the brain actually starts releasing dopamine, right? So you get a good feeling. It's like a drug, right? You get this. I think of it as the modern day cigarette. Right, the phone or the screen stimulates this release of brain chemicals that makes you feel good. That's not a problem in and of itself, except that once the phone goes away, and then those levels, the dopamine levels drop, all of a sudden you feel tired, heavy, depressed. It's hard to move through your day, right? So, listen, I have 3 kids, 11, 13, and 15. The idea that young people or people in the technological era are less focused is crazy. I see them dive into stuff. Now, they don't dive into the same things that I dove into, right? So they may not be focused on what I want them to be focused on, but their ability to jump into something is pretty significant and stay in it. It's mostly, I think it's a taste, right? It's an aesthetic. It's like they do like to jump. Right, they're happy jumping, but they have just as much capability to dive in and hold their concentration when it is stimulating them. And I think that's always the trick, right? Is for an actor, how do you putting some energy in, and then what do you do when it starts to return? What do you do when the vibration starts to come back? And I think that's where both sense memory comes in, right? How the body comes alive. There's a lot of tingling hands and tingling feet for people, which really is an area that has sort of been deadened, right? It's like the circulation. If your circulation is cut off, eventually it'll tingle. That tingling happens for a lot of folks in sense memory.
Especially after holding your phones.
Especially after holding, well, yeah, you're right. I think that's right. I think that there is a greater danger today of people becoming tripods for their brain. Mm-hmm. Right, so of losing their body, right? Yeah. So that now everything is just processed here into there. Blah, blah, blah. You don't even have the act of writing, which is valuable, right? If you actually write something out, you're more likely to remember it. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the same thing be true of typing, right? The way typing happens doesn't seem to energize the memory the same way and have the same mind-body relationship. So if you can physicalize, you gain a lot of power. And I think there are a lot of folks, and unfortunately a lot of actors today who are still working primarily from a cognitive place, from an intellectual place, a cerebral place. They're thinking through every part, thinking through every line. And some of that is our fault, actually, right? Some of that is the legacy of, it's still my father's legacy, and where people think of understanding the psychology of a character, right? Doing research into a character. That whole movement that came out of the group theater and through method acting does encourage logic. My dad was a very logical guy. And logic isn't enough. It's necessary but not sufficient, for this task, right? For the creative task. You want logic, you want the brain, you want the cognition, but you also want experience. You don't just want language and precision, you also want body language, right? You want all the denotation and connotation, so to speak. You want in that single word, yes, you want its definition, but you also want its meaning in context. And I think that takes your body. That's not something that tends to happen cognitively.
So going back to the dopamine and that leaving your system and feeling bad, do you see when students come into the classroom because they just had their social media hit and they come in, do you see that cycle when they sit in the chair to relax from, obviously they come in hyped up and connected, and does true emotion come in as they leave that cyber world? Do you see the transition or the withdrawal?
Yeah, I think there's a transition time, right? So what you'll see is people will come into the classroom, and most of them will be on their phone. As I say that, I notice my Apple Watch is in the shop, right? So I don't claim to be immune from this, right? I go through the same thing.
And we are on a laptop, so
yeah, exactly. And we're recording on a laptop.
I will upstream to YouTube.
There is power in the technology. There is the ability to connect and communicate and gain information, obviously, so much faster. My kids literally have asked me, Dad, what did people do before scanning an email?
Wow.
Like, how did they do business? And it's kind of a good question, right? Like, you put something in the mail and wait 3 days and hope it got there. And if it was a box, it might take 5 days or 7 days. It wasn't FedEx. This was pre-FedEx, right? So I don't claim to be better than anyone else. I'm just trying to be aware of the issues that are in front of us. So when you watch someone come into the room and they put their phone away, generally what you'll see is they'll sit in the chair, and for a large percentage, there's a sag. Not the sag of beginning relaxation, which is, can I release energy?
Right, which usually to me is like, I'm so happy to be here.
Because that's an active decision, right? That is now a release of something. Where there's a block of, so maybe my arm has a block, right? Physical energy block. As I release it, that energy will then move. It'll then travel around my body. It can come out of my eyes. It can come out of my voice. It can come out of another part of my body. But it is energy released. That's different than sitting in the chair and getting that depressed feeling. And then I see a lot of yawns. Actually, I yawn a lot when I get in the chair. I see people who go through this kind of when they first begin.
Right.
So I try not to push too much in those first few moments because they're not ready. There's no invitation. The body is not ready. The body's still kind of recovering from this bottom out, right? So it might need a minute or 2 or 5, right, before I think people come and find their energy again. And even if they're doing the movement, even if they're relaxing the arm, relaxing the back, they might be doing the proper things, but you can watch them and the energy doesn't blossom for a few minutes. And I think there could be other reasons for that, defensive mechanisms for them, but I think some of that is also the withdrawal from their highly stimulating technical environment.
I feel like we need sense memory more than ever in 2016. The world is just going way too fast, and I see in my classes that that the students, once they commit and they have that full concentration, and especially with the young actors, it's such a new experience for them to concentrate this way and to be in the moment this way. And I think it's really going back to the basics.
Yeah, it's a more visceral connection, right? Like you can connect online, and a lot more of our communication is happening digitally. Even Skype calls, right? Well, you think that'd be better because you get to see people, except it's not replacing a telephone call, really. A Skype call is not replacing, just a voice communication. It's actually replacing this. It's replacing face-to-face communication.
Right.
So Skype compared to face-to-face, literally like the sense of your body, the communication, the meaning, tone gets lost a little bit in that way. And I think people are understimulated, which is maybe a funny way to say it because we're always plugged in. But I think people are understimulated. So if you look at what's happening, if you look at the trends, what are people into? Well, first of all, eating, right, which is essentially just a form of stimulation. It's like at an all-time high in the United States.
Interesting.
Right? People are just consuming tremendous amounts of food.
Why?
I think they're understimulated. I think it's like eating potato chips. There's no nutritional value really.
Right.
Or candy, right? Which are all pretty. They're designed to make you eat them, right, and to make you keep eating them.
Right.
But when you eat and it still doesn't satisfy you, right? Then you just have to cram more in because you need 3 times as much as is actually required, right? I think people they're trying to stimulate with that and it doesn't quite satisfy them, so then they put more in. Mm-hmm. Then you look at what else they're doing. Everything from amusement parks and these experiences. I don't know if you're aware of like these like extreme haunted houses.
No.
Right? Like it's become like a big business, right? And escape rooms.
Is it to make you feel more?
Yeah, make you feel more. Literally. I have some friends who do some of the stuff where you're literally tortured.
Oof.
Like my friend's been waterboarded, basically, right? And he pays for this. Now, he may not be in the majority of Americans, right. People who are choosing to be abused in a way that is controlled and you have a safe word, but it's essentially a form of abuse, right? That you self-inflict, and be terrified. But I see those cropping up, these escape rooms. I did an escape room recently, and that my friend ran called The Virus, and it's great, right? It's up in I guess you'd say it's North Hollywood-ish area. Okay. Very, very cool. It's all puzzles, right? You go and you have to solve these puzzles in order to cure this disease that's destroying the world, right? It's fun.
But is it like acting? You're giving yourself an acting experience?
Well, they definitely have actors doing it. You actually enter it, use a VR, right, a virtual reality thing. Mm-hmm. So they show you kind of going into this underground space, and then they've got the room set up in a realistic fashion. Wow. And in this room, actually, the walls move. So the place will shake, and you don't quite realize it as it's happening, but the room probably shrinks by 2/3. Wow. So by the end, and when you're really trying to solve this thing and cure this disease, right? And they've got fumes shooting up here, and alarms going off, and all this kind of stuff happening. And meanwhile, you've got something that says, little clues left from a doctor, that says, put these in order and find the solution, the thing. The point is, like, these things are happening now because, again, we're understimulated. It's not enough. Like, it's great to play a video game. Video games are fun and they're immersive and all that stuff. And, like,
right, human touch.
They're not quite enough. So we keep searching for more. So then whether it's food, whether it's drug use, whether it's these kind of specialized experiences, people are just desperate to feel more.
So
sense memory there.
Okay.
Sense memory there, I think, is one of the answers, right? I think that is certainly, it can fill some of that space.
Absolutely. Re-experiencing things in memory and smelling them again and tasting them again. It's like, it's so alive and it's a real adventure.
Yeah.
I guess my next question would be, listening to you, is it going to be enough watching an actor on film or stage after this virtual entry into another world?
Probably not, right? Actually, it's funny. I was talking to a guy recently, and he said something about TV has replaced theater as the entertainment of choice, mm-hmm. right? Speaking over decades, right? And of course that's true. I said, but watch out, it's coming back. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, because actually the theater experience is better suited to a virtual reality, or actually I was sitting with this guy at Microsoft, and they're working on augmented reality, which is so cool, right? Instead of putting glasses on and just replacing and showing me a movie of what's supposed to be happening, or showing me this completely virtual world, that you put on glasses and you add the virtual to the space you're in. So you can add things into this room. So whether that's a person standing there, whether that's some event happening, right? So that you blend you blend what's real and what's
And
fictional.
that to me is kind of like the exercises we do, like
Exactly.
What is the half real? What do we call it? The half.
Well,
half
I
real,
think of it as imaginary reality, but yes, it's
half and half. We call them
half and half.
Yeah.
You know, and if you think of that, theater's well placed, right? If you can to put on goggles, so that you have some sort,
Yeah.
and be able to leverage a live experience, real actors in a real space doing real things unpredictably,
That's theater.
and then to be in the middle of it, to be the audience that's in the middle of it, changes things, because in the past you couldn't leverage a show the right way, right? Like you could make one TV show and 12 million people can watch it.
Right.
Well, to get 12 million people, even like the best musical out today, Hamilton, right? It's like it's going to win everything, right?
Right.
It's an amazing show. I don't know what they get. 5,000 to the theater? 3,000? So I don't know. A few thousand at a time in the audience instead of several million at a time. So financially, it doesn't really stack up in terms of an entertainment form to invest a lot of money in it. But if you could put on goggles and watch that show, would that be more or less entertaining than a pre-recorded TV show? Right? Like if you could actually interact with those characters in some fashion.
I think it would be more.
I think so. I think there's at least an opportunity for live theater to be leveraged by technology and distributed by technology in a really, really powerful way.
And you're getting out of your house. You're not sitting at home just, playing a game. You're interacting with other people, going to the theater.
I think live theater would actually start happening where you're back in your house again.
Really?
Yeah. But you actually can put on the goggles and go there, right? And have some combination of here and there.
So you can have a theater subscription from home.
Something like that. Exactly right. Or like Netflix, except you're going to the live theater.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know. This is, it's hypothetical, right?
Like
but the idea is if people are desperate for human contact, look at music. Right? This is going back to sense memory, right? People are desperate for human contact. The strongest way we interact with the world is through the five senses. That's how we interact. So if you look at music, so music is booming. There's more music creation now than ever before, right? iTunes is now, it ain't going anywhere, right? Digital music's all over the place. GarageBand, my daughter can record her own songs if she wants to compose, record as a 15-year-old without any problem. But that's not where the money is. So where are people making money in music? You have any idea?
Well, okay, if they're not making it on iTunes.
Yeah, because they're only getting a small piece.
Subscriptions.
I think people might be trying subscription. I haven't seen it working anywhere particularly.
Okay. Concerts, live concerts. Okay.
That's the thing, right?
Like
live
doing
concert.
world tours.
Exactly right. The concert business, the live event business is booming. Think you can't listen to the radio without hearing what now I can't even think of it. It must not be a great advertisement. What's the Barry's Tickets or StubHub or Vivid or there are so many ticket brokers, ticket services out there in LA. I mean, I personally probably get emails from 5 different ticket brokers. Wow. And these are not individuals. These are not friends of mine who are sending me emails, right? This is just like the natural course of things is like, here, have a ticket. I can get you less expensive tickets because that's where bands are making all their money is on tour.
So what about small theater companies? What about if we do a play down here in the Maryland and we wanted to try this? Is it possible? We need a huge subscription base.
Yeah, so far, what I don't see yet, the thing that I think would change it would be the interaction with technology. That's what I think it would change, right? And I don't see that yet because what I'm talking about is not filming plays and letting people watch them.
It's actually adding.
It's the immersion.
It's tech.
Right. It's the tech. It's the ability to experience you as a live actor, and I can stand there with you. I can walk around the set with you, right? And I think so that we get closer instead of the separation of watching a screen. Maybe there's an opportunity for live theater for people to experience that show.
And could there be a way to go historically? Like, could we go to the Globe Theater and walk around with Shakespeare?
Exactly right. Right. And or see a Shakespearean production. And if again, there are all these people playing at it right now, right? Like if you saw Grease, did you see the live Grease? I thought the live Grease was really, really well done. And I thought the staging was phenomenal because it's one of the first times I've seen a filmed play that actually understood it was being filmed. Right? Instead of saying, here's our stage, here are our characters, now we'll just get some funky camera movements in to sort of approximate a movie. Mm-hmm. It always looks funny. Right. Even when the acting's good, it looks funny because we're not used to watching a movie looking like this. Right, we're used to over-the-shoulder shots. Yeah. Right, then we want the two-shot, like this might be. Then we want a wide shot. We want to get different perspectives. We want the cuts and the editing to be familiar. Right. What was great about the Grease piece, and by the way, directed by the director of Hamilton, right? So the most creative thing going right now on Broadway, and so now this director, he totally owned that this was a live theater piece, and he goes, and we're not going to hide it. Right? Yeah. It's like a magician says, nothing up my sleeves, right? Like, hey, you're going to watch live theater. You're going to see people running from set to set. We're going to have two people right next to each other that don't see each other. And then we're going to move around. You're going to see the set. You're going to see the people coming in. But it gave you an experience of watching actors move around, knowing how this was going, right? And not just giving you a flat view of theater. And I think that's really what I'm interested in. Can tech help us return theater, if you're going to do it on film, if you're going to do it through a screen, mm-hmm. somehow you have to get the third dimension again. Okay, so I have to go teach class. Going back to the original question, David, now, is sense memory relevant in 2016, taking all these wonderful things we've talked about and the capacity and the potential for the virtual experience, can that be introduced to the sensory exercise? Or can our sensory exercises, this is kind of esoteric, somehow, since we're feeling so much, everything's about senses, it's incredibly relevant, I'm answering the question, but how can anything with the training, can the two coincide together? And is there a way to take Strasberg actors who are trained to use the utmost of their senses and put them into this work? There are a lot of threads in that. So in terms of the importance of sense memory, it's more important than ever, yes. Yes. By the way, just in a really practical sense, so much of what an actor works with today isn't there. Right? It's green screened, right? It's digitally, it's added after the fact, right, digitally. So that means an actor can't rely even on his scene partner. Mm-hmm. I might be talking to you and you may not be there. Now, there's always been a little bit of that in terms of, a guy who's off camera. Yeah, reverse angles, and you're talking to a tennis ball on a pole, right? You're not actually talking to your scene partner. But it's gotten much more extreme, or the person who's there is now wearing some crazy mask, or they're wearing, they're wearing a suit. You're not even on a soundstage with a set that feels like a real table in a real location. It's not like being on Universal Studios. Mm-hmm. It's an empty room with a green screen that's like 60 degrees. So, which is perfect for us because we create imaginary objects, place. You train to be on location all the time. I do. Right? So you train to bring your location with you and create things that you need. Perfect. So the skill really is maximized, I think, in today's environment. And I think we can go further in terms of getting not just people to buy in and to believe, right? But can we get them to physicalize? I think that's always been a challenge. Because people like believing, they like to retreat in here and oh yeah, I can feel the wind. Right. Oh yeah, and that's great. Can you come out here, feel the wind? Again, can you go on the set? Can you go from virtual reality to augmented reality? Yep. Right. Virtual reality meaning I'm here and I feel something. Right. No one else gets it, but I feel it. Or can I take that reality and bring it out? Can I bring it and share it? Can you share it with somebody who's standing next to you who doesn't know our work, but can get the sensation that it's contagious. It's there. That something's there. We feel it. And that is absolutely possible. The best actors certainly do it, but it puts a lot of onus on us to make it happen. Okay. And we're here to learn that. And we're here to learn that. And you're here to teach it in about 5 minutes. I am. So I'm going to sign off. I hope, and I know my viewers hope, that you will return to the show. This is a special, almost half-hour version. Thank you. A lot to think about. A lot of things that are going to affect me that I'm going to go discuss with my class regarding this conversation. So thank you. Keep it up. And thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Bye. Bye.